Next up is a reissue of the movie A Woman is a Woman, which is by Godard from 1961. I should really quickly give you guys the cast. We've got Angela, played by Anna Karina. We've got Emile, played by Jean-Claude Braley, sorry, or Briali. I'm not sure if you say it right. Alfred is played by Jean-Paul Belmondo. I believe these are all very famous French people, but I'm not very versed on classic or New Wave French cinema. First of all, this is, of course, in the French New Wave. Squarely in it, Godard is kind of one of the standard bearers for the French New Wave. I believe this is either right after or a couple films after Breathless. Confession is, I am not very versed on the French New Wave. I have not seen too many of them, and some of the ones I've seen have just not hit me too much. Boy, I don't remember the names of them. Breathless, I've never even made it through. I've tried a couple times, and I just wasn't struck by it. It just didn't pull me in. I'll probably go back to it and do it again because I know it's considered a classic, but it just wasn't pulling me in. I don't know how a woman is a woman is considered in the pantheon of the French New Wave and specifically Godard. I'm thinking it's considered like good, but maybe not one of his top tier ones. I think this is being re-released because I think it's getting a 4K treatment or it's getting a short re-release in like a fully restored version. And it is a color film, so it has that getting that bright clarity from the 60s, early 60s can really give the look of a movie that's restored from that era. Just some fantastic jumping off the screen looks to it, especially when you have something that was shot on film originally. And it looks great. What is interesting about this movie, and I think what was interesting about it then, was that this is considered kind of a revisionist or an alternate version of the romantic musical comedy, which was such a big thing, especially back in that era. It still is some degree, but really back in that era. So this is sort of taking that format and deconstructing it. And by deconstructing it, I mean we have scenes where, for example, Angela, well, I'll give you the basic concept. Angela is a, young woman in Paris, and she works at like I guess it's a strip joint for that era. So it's kind of more like burlesque to us now, although they did get like kind of semi-naked. Of course, that's also daring for films at the time in America. I could see a lot of American art house people going to see this because it would have nudity before it was really seen in America. It doesn't have much nudity. It has a little bit, and it's just like flashes. But we see her going to her strip joint job. There's this kind of thing where you'll have the regular sound and then all of a sudden like blocks of music will pop in and then pop out. And I think that is supposed to be kind of playing with the idea of a musical, but not really being a musical. So for example, in those classic musicals of that era, we all know they would just literally burst into full-fledged song and dance numbers just that come right into the moment and then go out and then they go back to talking and stuff. And this is much more abruptly breaking up moments with things like that, but not them really breaking into full song exactly. As part of their kind of dancing and stripping, they play their own music. So she puts on a tape that she's going to be singing to and stripping to, and she goes out to do her number, and there'll be things like the music will be really loud, and then the moment she goes to sing on the soundtrack of the actual movie, it'll fully cut out and it will just be her a cappella voice, like very quiet and like just in the room. And then back to the music, really filling everything, and then cuts it out and it's just her in the room. So you can see that they're very overtly toying with the kind of the format. But all of that is kind of beside the point of the main point of the movie. The main point of the movie is that she is having, I wouldn't say a love triangle per se, but she has her main boyfriend, and I've already forgotten which one was which. I think Emile was the main guy. Emile, and they live together, and she is getting kind of unhappy with their relationship, and she wants them to basically have a baby. She wants to have a baby. And there's kind of this very rat-a-tat back and forth between them, and music stings and kind of a choreography where they're moving around each other in the apartment, her trying to keep pushing him to do it and to have a baby, and him not wanting to do it, and eventually trying to convince their friend, Alfred, to basically father the baby so she can still get a baby. And it's just kind of that. And then whether she is mad at Emile and doesn't want to be with him anymore and wants to be with Alfred, or whether Alfred really wants to be with her. So that's kind of the overall play of the movie is her kind of bouncing back and forth between the two guys and also wanting to have a baby and trying to be this kind of snappy, bright weird version of rom-coms from the French New Wave. There are moments where it breaks the fourth wall and they'll talk out at the audience, usually more of just almost an aside, not like a full conversation with the audience, not a narration per se, but little kind of asides like, "Oh, see what he did there," or "Wait, what did I do?" Or something like that, where it's kind of taking you aside. Overall, it was fine. It wasn't like a classic for me. There is a datedness to it, which I think some people will find very charming. I feel like this is one of those movies that, for people who are in love with the French New Wave or really, really found movies and film at that time, this is probably a must for them. For people that are a little younger that don't really have a connection to it, I'm guessing it's going to be more of an interesting oddity that will be okay, but maybe not really hit them. And since I came to it so late in my life, it kind of hits me that way too. Like, I enjoy it well enough, but it doesn't do a ton for me. I would say of all the stuff in the movie, the thing that really struck me the most is there's some really interesting staging of a couple scenes, most notably for me, of all of the back and forth relationship stuff. The stuff that really worked is they're in this tiny French apartment and they have this tiny bed. Like, by today's standards, there's no way anyone would live like this, with basically a single bed. They have a single bed that the two sleep in. And they have this thing where they go to sleep and they have this floor lamp and they should turn off the lights, and they're having this conversation where one will turn on the lamp and talk to the other person and turn off the lamp. And the other person, "I'm not talking to you anymore. Turn on the lamp. I'm not going to talk to you anymore, but I'm talking to you. Turn off the lamp." And they have this whole interplay where they use book titles and they block out words, so they each are talking to each other with book titles because they're not talking to each other. And I thought that was a really clever, kind of a fun, almost trope, but I've never quite seen it done like that for a rom-com. And also, as part of that scene, they're doing this thing where one person will pick up the floor lamp, which has an incredibly long cord, and walk it around the room to find the book and then bring it back and turn it off. And the other one person they'll get the lamp and they'll take it and put it around. So it's almost this dance. And I thought, if the whole movie had that kind of energy, more of a, go to another French guy, Andre, or Tati, playtime, sort of like physical inventiveness, I could have found this movie being much more engaging, because I loved that, of all that era stuff. I loved things like Playtime by Tati, because it was like so physically interesting, the way that they use the world. This movie had a moment like that, was interesting. So overall, it's 3 stars for me, but I think mileage will vary wildly depending on kind of where your tastes kind of fall.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. For more movie and television reviews and interviews, please subscribe to my Deepest Dream channel. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And as always, thanks so much for your support. Take care.